as I say to my family and friends and say often on this show, it's never a dull moment in the world of West Virginia University sports. And these last 48 hours have definitely proved that that is the case. I'm Carson Fox for Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports. And what I'm alluding to is the news of head men's basketball coach Darian DeVries leaving the program, accepting the open head coaching position at University of Indiana, and being officially now a one-and-done coach at West Virginia. And oh man, that's one of the reasons why I created this channel. Is it just seems as if ever since 2020, and then of course the invention of the transfer portal and NIL, that it is never a 24-hour, there's never not news to talk about, it seems like, in a 24 to 48 news cycle. And if you were just like me over these last couple of days, refreshing Twitter through all of the chaos and like the national media attention that was being put in on West Virginia getting snubbed from the NCAA tournament, to the governor of the state saying that he was, going to be calling a press conference against action against the NCAA, to all of the rumors surrounding Darian DeVries allegedly taking the Iowa job. Now today, to out of what felt like nowhere other than what 247 Sports was reporting all over the weekend, that he was also the leading candidate at Indiana. And then ultimately, after the business day today, that news breaking from Indiana, that they'd hired Darian DeVries. Like, oh my gosh, you're just sitting on pins and needles that entire time, just wondering what's going to happen. So, I feel for us fans. I feel for the players. But who I think I really feel for the most at the end of the day is Wren Baker. It was because Wren Baker has, oh my gosh, just been run through the gamut. I feel like in the it's just been a gauntlet for the last 2 years. Coming on, barely had a cup of coffee, having to have a vote of confidence behind head coach Neil Brown as the football coach, to then have everything happen with the Bob Huggins situation, to the Josh Eilert situation, to Randy Mazey's calling it after the end of the 2024 baseball season, to hiring a new basketball coach, to then firing a football coach with a over a $10+ million buyout, to hiring a new football coach, to having your basketball coach that you hired a year prior leave. Like, oh my gosh, he has just been run through the ringer. And it's just so hard. I feel like that he played, he played his cards, did everything he could to try and, sway Darian DeVries and everything. Allegedly there was an extension out there on the table offered to him. I said at the end of February, if based upon what all he had achieved during this regular season, that he should have been offered at least $500,000 more per year to get him close to top 25 money based upon what he achieved. So if Indiana went out there and they offered him, more than what West Virginia could ask for, Wren Baker's doing everything he can for a program and a fan base who is being asked for more and more dollars every single day to try and stay competitive in this crazy world of the NIL transfer portal before the house settlement kicks in, and what all the ramifications come from that. But like at the end of the day, while I still think that Darian DeVries just saying all that he said at his introductory press conference, and it would take a special place to have him leave Drake to come here for 1 year. The conspiracy theories surrounding Tucker DeVries and sitting out while not actually hurt or already swirling around Twitter. The rumors about this potentially starting as early as November, when West Virginia and Indiana were both participating in that Bahamas Invitational tournament that West Virginia performed so well at. Like, I don't know. I mean, in today's world of college sports, I feel like anything is believable. But that it would be very confusing for me. Not so much on the Tucker front, because now the way things have played out, him having an extra year's worth of eligibility, whatever West Virginia paid him in NIL dollars, he only played 8 games. So that's funny. And also very much the timing of all of this is very funny. The fact of the matter that West Virginia declined options for the NIT and this CBC brand new tournament that Fox Sports has started, when West Virginia was the first team out of the NCAA tournament. And I think that there was more to be had for Javon Small to put on a show, end this season in the right way. So from the get-go, from Sunday into Monday, it just felt as if something was off. Something was weird. Ren Baker going on Sportsline on the radio show and saying that he's had enough conversations with Darren and done everything he could to make him feel believe that West Virginia was going to do everything in its power to give him what he needed for financial resources and anything else that he wanted to. And I'm sure that's where the contract extension came from. So at the end of the day, I guess what we have to first know are the contract terms from Indiana for Darian DeVries. If Indiana was paying him $5 million plus, and they're going to try and pay him like a top 15, top 10 coach in college basketball, it's just unfortunate because ultimately, and now I'm 6 minutes into this video, I think the point is, and this is like a prime example here, is I think that West Virginia is kind of around the top of the middle class of college sports. And because they're not in the SEC and the Big Ten, who are loaded with ESPN and Fox Sports money, that now they have to be very careful on how they allocate their dollars. And I talked about that, after the 2023 football season, given all the chaos that was going within the men's basketball program, and kind of thought that West Virginia maybe had a chance, with the way things that were going with the program this regular season with men's basketball. But now it just unfortunately seems as if, and this is the most unfortunate thing whenever these coaching hires happen, is West Virginia probably going to lose all of its high school recruits? Yes. Is all of the roster, returning roster, going to change over? Yes. So West Virginia has to hit the reset button again and start completely over. So because the SEC and Big Ten are loaded with this money, that they are financially set to be able to do athletically really what they want to be even keel competitively. Now you're going to have your programs out there who are going to try and still focus in on one sport. I can think of how before this season it was Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was only good in baseball, weren't necessarily as good in basketball and football, but now look at the strides they've come to be a competitive, a team that went to a bowl game, beat Alabama. Now they're in the NCAA tournament and still a top-fledged baseball program. I think the Big Ten has more from especially the bottom half to kind of come up in some respects. But it's like, okay, well, if your counter argument, Carson, as well, if the reporting was that Iowa wasn't in such a good of a place financially to offer Darian DeVries a contract that West Virginia could either match or put together a package that was just as attractive, if not more, for Darian DeVries, well, then here comes Indiana. And that's what I ultimately come to say is West Virginia, I don't think can afford, and this is, again, it's not just them. It's everybody in the ACC, the Big Ten, all the G6 programs, that the middle class of college athletics is getting shredded apart. And like this is a prime example of it, that if your ability to be either a national contender or a conference leader in football, in basketball, in baseball. Like, I'm hard pressed to find, those kinds of programs. Like, I think North Carolina kind of comes to mind, even though they had a down year in football. I think Texas Tech kind of comes to mind. So it's really your institutional financial standing. It's your NIL resources, namely your brand recognition. But don't get it twisted that in very short order, I would feel like everybody's circling kind of the year 2030 and 2031 for this prophesied super league to form, that everybody is fighting against headwinds in the ACC and the Big 12 now to try and stay as competitive as humanly possible before the AC or the SEC and the Big 10. I would think shed a few teams and then add a few teams, and that is going to be the new world of college athletics. A new Division I and a new Division II. And what do we hope for as West Virginia fans? Because it's pretty if now Darian DeVries is getting offered, $5+ million a year at Indiana to coach, we at West Virginia have to just accept, and it's a tough pill to swallow, it truly is, that if we have some outsider who comes up in the program, makes a name for himself, shows that he has the coaching acumen, and he gets offered, an offer that he financially cannot refuse, then he's going to move on. If it can happen with Rich Rodriguez, 17 years ago, it can happen with anyone. So, and it's going to happen more frequently with someone who didn't play here or is from here, so doesn't know or doesn't have the type of internal commitment and passion for the program. For the other people who it was just a job. And pretty clearly it was just a job, saying whatever he needed to say in that introductory press conference about taking the head coaching position, about this being, such a special place here that he would get up and leave Drake for. To then gets this after 1 year offer, and he's out the door. Or you're sticking with Neil Brown type of very mediocre in competition, and if they have some sort of success, or you get any sort of wind like Shane Lyons had about South Carolina potentially sniffing around and wanting to steal him away, and you overpay for him. Like, that's exactly what it seems like what Pitt did with Jeff Capel in basketball. So it's just really tough. I feel like it's a tough pill to swallow right now, is because college sports are trending so much like Major League Baseball, and where the richest franchises are the ones that are able to have the most success, because this is what now college sports has turned into. And I know that's what many people are turned off by about the sport, is that it's just going to the super rich and powerful, and ESPN funding the SEC, Fox Sports funding the Big Ten. Like, we as West Virginia fans and so many in the Big 12 and ACC are just trying to survive as best as possible. And you gotta, I feel like, pick and choose with what or just, again, simply live with the fact that you will have this kind of turnover more frequently than others. Because if these schools, you want your coach of any specific program, they are going to be, with their monopoly money from their TV networks, go out there and spend it. So can you continuously compete with and stay, keep up with the Joneses, stay in this arms race? And that's what I'm afraid unfortunately happened. And thank goodness that just like what everyone was saying about the hire with Rich Rodriguez, and I know it's basketball to football, so not an apples to apples comparison, is someone who was from here, what really I think at the end of the day that we as West Virginia fans, we want someone who loves this university as much as we do, put their heart, soul, passion, time, and energy in thinking about them constantly, and for some that just think it's a job. Or again, their head is on the profession for the hours, or they're looking ahead. They have their sights set on elsewhere. And it's just so unfortunate because for this basketball program, kind of to recap now for this 2024 season, is we needed to know what happened with this coaching situation to make any sort of put this season in context for then how it then parlays and goes into 2025-26. Because while that Gonzaga win was great, while that Kansas win on the road was awesome, while that win at home against number 2 Iowa State was electrifying and an amazing atmosphere at the Coliseum, and that's what we are so accustomed to and love as Mountaineer fans, like, it really doesn't mean anything other than the entertainment value at the end of the day, given that West Virginia didn't make the NCAA tournament, didn't win a game in the Big 12 tournament, and now the head coach has left for another program, leaving us high and dry with now having to start over on March 18th. So this is how this is going to affect the high school recruits. Probably all 3 are going to decommit. What this is going to happen to the roster. Everybody who has returning eligibility is going to want to, hit the transfer portal and explore their options. So now you got to go through a whole hiring process again for Ren Baker. Get that person in. You're really not going to have much of a shot at any high school recruits. Anybody who's worth anything at this point in time. Or you're going to have to find gems, diamonds in the rough out there that only you know about, or you're pulling up guys who are probably G6 level quality players, like say a KJ Tenner was, and that's who you're going to then put in a P4 uniform at least for the first year. Oh, so it's just really tiring. It's really exhausting. Having gone through this now, from the Bob Huggins to the Josh Eilert year, now to the Darian DeVries year, and on to the next head coach. It's very tumultuous for this men's basketball program trying to find its footing in the world, and I can't just help but feel as if the commitment that you have to make to be successful. And I guess where kind of changing gears a little bit is West Virginia has a new president coming in. By all accounts and measures, that this new president was an enrollment driver at Coastal Carolina this year, having its largest class in school history. So trying to boost enrollment and what that can happen, and also for athletics and facility upgrades and improvements. And Coastal Carolina was a top 25 football program not all that long ago with Grayson Allen at quarterback. And having been down there in Myrtle Beach and playing golf on the campus and driving through it a little bit, to see where it has come, I feel like, especially over the last 10 years, but even more recently, I feel like in the last 5 to 8 years, man, wow. If he has that same kind of passion, drive, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and let's go do this for West Virginia with Ren Baker as your athletic director, who, while having still been run through the ringer, I feel like is as hard of a worker, and he is a great ambassador for our program, and just if some things break here and there, West Virginia makes some strategic investments. It's still going to cost a lot. It's still going to take an investment from the fan base, from the boosters who have a lot more money than me, and then make some strategic investments where you need to, and just re-strategize. I don't want to get down into what that potentially might be. That's not for this video. That I can see West Virginia being in a better place, as we talk about these next 6 years before what I'm going to hedge my bets on is a super conference forms, is that he did it once before with finding Darian DeVries, having the kind of season that he had, that now like I said when DeVries was hired, the biggest move, best thing for West Virginia, that he was bringing over Tucker. Well, West Virginia still was able to win at Kansas, was still able to beat Iowa State, was still able to go 10-10 in Big 12 play, when I was still thinking that they were just going to be, somewhere in the ballpark of maybe 8-12, even with Tucker, that they were still able to achieve that much. Now, Javon Smalls don't grow on trees out there. So if you're having to replace the whole roster, you got to go find somebody like that. Like, that's easier said than done to just go out there and find a player like that. But, man, if you can find the right coach, once again, and West Virginia can do what it can to invest into that coach as best as, and the players to the best of the ability, then, like, you have a fan base who will support you to as much as they possibly can. The ultimate ramification is it's stuck in this Big 12 conference that is behind the SEC and behind the Big Ten behind the Big Ten conference in terms of like dollars and revenue that it's bringing in as athletic departments. Not all of them, but a high percentage of them. So really, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap my head around some ideas. I think that will make some good content maybe for an upcoming show. I think I have a couple of ideas that I'm already kind of kicking around. So maybe I'll talk about that in the time being. Just for now, I'm really hurting for you, Mountaineer Nation. Myself included. Just really, just couldn't believe. You kind of just, the only way to cope, I feel like, through this is just to laugh it off. Just to be like, here we go again. We can't have nice things as West Virginia fans. I've labeled it in a previous show the Bobby Bowden curse. That whenever, the old timers there in the 70s burned Bobby Bowden in effigy, only for him to be a national championship winning his head coach in college football history, or right up there with Joe Paterno before his wins were vacated. For all of that to happen, then for everything to happen, over the course of the next 45 years, almost 50 years, it's just like, man, West Virginia gets so close in so many different sports, only to just not get there in defining what that is, whether that's a conference championship, whether that's a national championship. It is so hard. Being a West Virginia fan is not for the faint of heart. Being disappointed more times than you're going to be satisfied. So having to appreciate those happy times, those good moments, I just feel like perhaps in a certain way, even though having lived through 2007, being spoiled there in the mid 2000s to early 2010s through the Pat White, Kevin Pittsnogle, through Geno Smith, Javon Carter, or even go a little earlier than that, Kevin Jones years, to now, it's just gotten so much harder in the world. So we got to strategize. I think we got to just think about this of, if money is the name of the game at the end of the day, how can we perhaps raise more money without it just impacting then the fan experience? Because I've already talked about it on my video series last year about the football game day experience, one of the most expensive in the country. So, good riddance to Darian DeVries. If he ended up making twice as much money at Indiana while still getting the kind of NIL support, for basketball that West Virginia can offer, or more than whatever, that's just, I feel like, a byproduct again of what the Big Ten and the SEC can afford for its schools, depending upon what they want to invest their dollars on and be one of the top programs. I mean, Indiana Indiana hasn't been to a Final Four since 1980. So, West Virginia has more recent success. I feel like Indiana is such a has-been program for at least the course of my lifetime. I don't know if I was Bobby Knight still there whenever I was born in '93? Or I know then he went to Texas Tech, but it's like Indiana is such a has-been, Gen X baby boomer program. Then but they got a lot of momentum. They have a lot of momentum because of what Kurt Signetti brought in for the football program. Seems like it's enlivened their, fan base, making the college football playoff. Now, if they want to try and be a basketball, regain the glory years of Hoosiers, Hoosiers pride, and this is like the hottest name on the block out there. They're going to go out there and they're going to overpay off 1 year's worth of production at West Virginia. And see where it goes from there. So I don't wish Darian DeVries any success at Indiana. I don't. The conspiracy theories can flow about, when did he have first contact with Indiana, whether it's, during that Bahamas tournament back in November. Was there a play all along potentially for Tucker to redshirt so then Darren could leave the next year and retain his eligibility and come back? I just don't want to go down that rabbit hole because we don't know what's true and what's not. It's so hard to know these things, but also I just wouldn't understand why then when Tucker was officially out, Darren coaching as hard as he did through the conference schedule, West Virginia coming up again with those wins against Kansas, against Iowa State, and being so competitive against teams like BYU and Baylor, not Texas Tech, obviously. But you get where I'm saying is, BYU twice. No, they lost by 20 in the second one. I'm sorry. But you get where I'm going with this is just like, West Virginia didn't give up. Not at all. I think it changed itself, trying to shoot more threes, trying to be more offensively driven that way, which sometimes paid off and sometimes didn't pay off. It's just really a tough pill to swallow for not making the NCAA tournament this season, given all West Virginia accomplished. Whether there were backdoor conversations between Indiana and Darian DeVries and the selection committee to keep West Virginia out, with Indiana saying, all right, we'll go on a wash for this season because we want to get a jump start on our next season and hire Darian DeVries from West Virginia. That is just crazy to me. Just absolutely crazy to snub West Virginia that way and then kick West Virginia in the teeth even harder because knowing that the coach was going to be leaving. And then now the roster potentially, which is arguably just as important as the head coaching decision, the roster going to be blowing up. It's just really, really sucks right now. So I feel for you, Mountaineer Nation, myself included. Hopefully that we can pick some things up from here. Got a really good baseball program, or at least this year's team. So put the... we'll follow this situation. As we get more information we'll do a recap kind of, not a recap, I would say, just monitor the situation with the roster, monitor the situation with the coaching hire, and then what goes forward. Spring practice is on a hiatus because of West Virginia being on spring break or just about to conclude. So I'll have more on the football front to talk about with you. Baseball, of course. But just, man, right now, it's just a sour taste in your mouth. I feel like after that kind of a football season, now that the way that this basketball season ended, which had so much promise, just a short time ago as 2 months ago when West Virginia beat Iowa State at home. So it just hurts. It just hurts, and I feel for you. So I'd love to know your thoughts, feelings, good, bad, and different here on YouTube. If you like this video, please like it so more Mountaineer fans can see it across YouTube. Love to have you as a subscriber to my channel as we conclude the 2024-25 academic and athletic year and look ahead to 25-26. There's never, like I said at the open, it's never a dull moment, so I'm going to be bringing you more stuff all the time. I tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog that I do this each and every week and have a lot of fun doing it. And hail West Virginia always. Let's go.